So, thank you very much, guys, for coming. This is gonna be like a packed presentation. Hopefully, I'm gonna end up at around 45 minutes. So please stay with me. Hopefully, it's not gonna be boring for you. And let's start. First of all, I would like to congratulate Security Espresso and give a big round of applause for the 2 years anniversary. Guys, congratulations. And many more years to come. Now, we have another celebrations. Most of you might know that we celebrated on the 1st of December, we celebrated our first 100 years. And, you know, most people say, okay, it's like 1st of December 1918, and then like, whoa, this was the union between the three regions of Romania, Transylvania, Moldavia, and the Romanian region. Yeah, we can call it like that. Yeah. But, you know, actually, this is not actually true, because the actual union happened 2 years later. The actual the date that was celebrated after the after the First World War, and when the regions started like doing unions and everything, was this date, 10th of May 1877, which was the Independence Day. We as Romanians, we celebrate this one as our independence from the Ottoman Empire. Anybody else knows what this day is called? What's the other name that we celebrate, we know this day from, 10th of May? Day of the King. Bingo. So, this is the date that was actually celebrated, that was chosen as a celebratory date for our union and our all achievements in the past. But then the communists came and said, oh no, let's celebrate our union on the 1st of December, forgetting that other regions came and merged on other dates. And this is one topic that we're going to discuss a little bit later. Now, my name is Demeter. I graduated almost 4 years ago. Since then, I've been working for Kaspersky's lab, Global Research and Analysis team, in short, GREAT. And in my own time, I'm also a developer for an open source Yara distributed scanner, which is called Clara. So if you run Yara in your systems, if you want to have a private virus total retro hunt, check out Clara. It's publicly available, and you can deploy it on your system. But enough about what I'm doing. A little bit about my team, and those who might not know what GREAT means. It comes from Global Research and Analysis team, and basically we are focusing on threat intelligence and highly advanced APT attacks. So basically, this means that we're focusing on attacks against banks, against governments, against power plants, and everything in between. So basically, this is what we're doing. This is our research that we've been done in the past years, and of course, it started with Stuxnet, DoQ. Who heard about Stuxnet? Perfect. Everybody heard about Stuxnet. Stuxnet, DoQ. But then there's more. And in the past years, this is like 2016. And before, we also researched about Carbanak, about Equation. Anybody heard about Equation? Satellite Turla. Okay? And many more. Well, if you ask me why I didn't include 2017 or 18, is because our research combined in 2018 is more than everything you see here on the slide. So we're currently tracking more than 140 different APT groups in the wild, only that we discovered only in 2018. But before that, I would like to ask you a question. And I would like to ask you, what if you type war in Google, what do you expect to find? And Google, of course, will give you images such as this one, or this one, a tank, or like some battlefield. So usual images that you can associate them with the word war. But then, if I ask you to search for InfoWar, what would you find on Google? Not that one, yes. You might find images like this one, which is kind of like, you know, what the hell, guys, you know? Like, okay, this is Trump, fine. We have Terminator, sure. We have North Korea, okay, sure. But we have like a bomb, like a, sorry, we have a grenade with keyboard notes, like what the heck? But actually, the InfoWar looks like this, or like this. InfoWar can happen around us, or right now, while we are here together watching a presentation. Well, you are. Or InfoWar can happen while you drive, and everywhere around you. And the problem is, people don't realize that InfoWar is closer to them than they expect it to be. And this is the problem, this is a main problem. And in order to understand why this happens, we have to look back in the past, and we have to understand what happened in the past. And those are some of the most important APT campaigns that we found out and we discovered, and I would like to briefly go over them just a bit. So you heard about Stuxnet. Basically, it was a malware that was trying to infect the Natanz nuclear facility. The malware was designed to fake the to output wrong info on the computers that were controlling the uranium enrichment plants. So basically, those computers, the SCADA computers that were controlling the uranium enrichment centrifuges, they were showing normal values, but the malware was actually destroying those centrifuges. And the rest is history. Then we have the DuQ platform, the Tilde platform, which basically was a campaign that started around 2018 up until 2015 with DuQ 2.0, which actually hit my company. They hit Kaspersky, they attacked us. They managed to breach us with 30 days, and they were trying to steal our info about our latest research against also them, to see like if we caught them or not. Of course, no, this is what you do. Dark Hotel, interesting campaign. Basically, they were trying to infect VIP targets that were going to VIP hotels. So of course, if you want to infect a company, or if you want to infect somebody important in a company, what do? Well, you can attack him. You can attack him while he's at work, but you know, like you have to go past firewalls, you have to go past CMs, you have like, you know, it's like kind of pain in the ass. Rather, you can infect his computer when he goes and checks in at various hotels. So what did attackers do? They went there, they infected the hotel network, then they saw what guests are gonna arrive, and they were infecting the Wi-Fi traffic, the Wi-Fi, basically the internet line, and then they were like injecting malware into their guests' traffic. And this is how they were trying to infect it. Pretty clever, I might say. Equation Group, one of the most highly sophisticated English-speaking groups, they achieved persistence modifying the hardware firmware such that when you were reinstalling the operating system, from a fresh copy, safe copy, the operating system would get infected again. So those are super cool. Lazarus, you might have heard about Lazarus. Basically, they stole and they tried to steal more money, around $2 billion. Basically, they made a mistake, and some of the money didn't get transferred. They basically changed A instead of O instead of A, and it was like kind of fuck up. But you know, they actually managed to steal some money, so that's okay. Satellite Turla. They were trying to hide the CNC servers using satellites. So basically, we knew that the CNC server was located at IP address X, but Then where is this IP address X located? Well, it's a fucking continent. Okay, good luck finding it. So basically they were hijacking satellite connections, and then they were like sitting somewhere in the continent because the satellite broadcast to a continent, and then they were like receiving the hijacked traffic. Good luck finding them. So where next? You know, we thought quite well about this question, and we found out that there are three components of the information war. The cyber espionage and sabotage component, which both of them, they use malware. And we're pretty good at malware, detecting malware. Well, or that's what we like to think. We know how to tackle malware, and those components, they will use it in order to achieve to be successful in when they try to penetrate any networks or anything. But then there's the third component, and there's this mass opinion manipulation. And this component, unfortunately, wasn't or hasn't been thoroughly focused on. And we believe that in the future, more and more APT actors, they will use this component in order to achieve their goals. And today we're going to talk about this component. We're not going to talk about malware anymore. We're going to talk about mass opinion manipulation and other stuff related to this one. But before we talk about the present, we have to go on the past. And the first question is, do you happen to know the name of the guy in this picture? And I'm not talking about the guy on the left, which is kind of dead. So, bingo. So, this guy here, Ion Mihai Pacepa, he was a Romanian counterintelligence officer. He held the highest rank possible, and he defected. In the 70s, he went away. He went to the West Germany embassy, and then from there he was moved onto a secret plane to America. And then while he defected, he was the highest ranking intelligence officer, and basically he took a lot of secrets from the Romanian intelligence with him. After that, in one of the documentaries from our national television, TVR1, I think, basically they're saying that when after he defected, Ceausescu no longer trusted the security, so-called securitatea. He no longer trusted them. He started trusting more and more. He put his trust more and more on his wife, and from then onwards, you know what happened. So Ion Mihai Pacepa, he wrote 2 books while he's still alive actually. This guy is still alive. He wrote 2 books after he defected. One of them is called Orizontul Roșii, Red Horizons, and the other one is called Disinformation. Well, I read one of them, and I tend to believe some parts of what he wrote. Especially this one is pretty interesting because he talks about the mechanics and the tactics that Romanian's intelligence agency was using, and the tactics that we learned from the Russians. And we're going to go into more detail about that one. But then, the first thing that he talks about is called Desinformația. And Desinformația, in the words of Colonel Rolf Wangerbert, which basically he was director of Department X. Department X in the East Germany was the Department of Disinformation. So Disinformația, in his own words, he said, our friends in Moscow call it Desinformația. Our enemies in America, they call it active measures, and this is my favorite pastime. So basically what Desinformația is, and Pacepa says it very well in his book, he says, if you're good at disinformation, you can get away with anything. And I think that's pretty accurate. On the Wikipedia page, we see that the term was actually, they say that the term was actually coined by Stalin himself. Well, this is what Pacepa says, and I'm actually not, I don't believe this one I don't fully believe this one, but Desinformația is itself actually disinforming people. And the reason is that when they created this term, they wanted to give it like a Latin root instead of giving it a Slavonic root, so that it sounds Latin, so that it sounds that it was created by the Western agencies. So the term itself is disinforming. Okay, now I would like to show you 5 questions, 5 statements, and I would like to raise your hand if you believe that 5 of them are true, 4, 3, 2, or 1, or none are true. So the first statement is AIDS was created in a lab. The second one, the earth is flat. The third one, Napoleon was short. We eat banana clones, and Einstein failed at maths. Okay, so who believes that all 5 statements are true? Who believes that 4 statements are true? 3 statements? Oh, okay. 2 statements? More people? 1 statement? Alex? Okay. None of the statements are true. So we have some people here. Well, actually, the only true statement is this one. And we have to actually think why we believe the others are actually true. Well, the myth with Napoleon was actually disinformation, or it was kind of an error. It comes from the way the French measured it comes from the difference between the French foot and the English foot. So when they measured Napoleon, they measured him in French feet, and basically he's 5 feet 2 inches, and basically that was his height of 5 feet 2 inches. But actually he was 1.7 meters, basically 10 centimeters higher. And this is due to the fact that the French feet is a little bit longer than the English feet, but then they all reported in English feet. So he was average guy, but then from then onwards, everybody thinks that he was short. Then Einstein failed at maths. Basically, when a news magazine came to Einstein and they said, "Dude, what the heck, did you fail at maths?" He said, "No." He replied and told them, like, "I never failed in mathematics. And even before he was 15, so at a very early age, I mastered differential and integral calculus." So this makes sense, no? I mean, he was a physics genius. Of course he knew maths, what the heck? And he had to know maths from beginning. Okay, but these are some components of activnia mierie, which basically means active measures, which basically means active measures is a Soviet term for actions of political warfare, producing politically correct assessments and measures ranging from media manipulations to special actions involving various degrees of violence. So let's go a little bit in depth into and focus on this thing and see what it means. First of all, active measures, they include kind of 3 types of propaganda. And if we look at the LSE Soviet Subversion and Propaganda, a book that was published 1 year ago, on the page 17 we see that they're using white, gray, and black propaganda. And what does this mean? Well, white propaganda comes from known sources that do propaganda. So think of it as Russia Today, or think of it as some well-known Romanian TV news broadcasting channel. Yeah? So we know that they're doing propaganda, but they're doing it anyway. Well, black propaganda is different. It comes from an unknown source, but then its purpose is to try to trick people into believing it and try to make people act differently than before. So what happened? There was an event during the Czechoslovakia invasion, and there were some people who were protesting against this stuff. So there was a group that they created like a force or like a meetup group, like we're doing it today, and basically they were against this kind of the invasion of Czechoslovakia by the Russians and other communist countries. But actually their actions were to divert and to block people from achieving their goals into spreading their words against the Czechoslovakian war. So basically, this is kind of the stuff that black propaganda does. Basically, you create some groups or you do some actions that they try to actually do the opposite, but in a hidden way. Of course, black propaganda is not known. You have to like look closely if at their actions. And we can see some examples in Romania quite as well. Now, grey propaganda is something different. Grey propaganda is kind of like in between. And basically, we have an example about the Americans and their Vietnam War. So a lot of people were against Vietnam, and the Soviet counterintelligence guys, they said, okay, how can we turn more people against America? Well, simple. Let's create an organization that is actually trying to militate for world peace and also against the Vietnam War. And they tried to add a lot of VIP people. So one of the people who got into this organization was actually Pablo Picasso himself. And this was interesting because the only purpose of this organization was to gather VIP people to trick them into speaking their mind against a common goal for the Russians. So it was kind of an organization that was doing good, but in the back, like its purpose was to do actually propaganda against the Americans. Okay, so what's the cookbook? Simple. Front organizations, you know about them, agents of influence, infiltrate the media, fake stories and forgeries. And let's see what is happened. So, AIDS was created by the Americans. I spoke with some of my medics friends, and they all told me that during that period, for these years, and for the level of the technology and medicine, it wasn't possible for humans to actually create AIDS at that time. I don't know now. And we have also some other examples of diseases that actually mutated to humans, like the swine flu. So that's also something that mutated. Okay, so from a secret document that was publicly released not so long ago, we see that the Americans were calling it Operation Infection, and basically they say that a paper on the 17th of July 1983, there was a newspaper in Pakistan that said a well-known American and scientist and anthropologist in New York claimed that AIDS is believed to be results of Pentagon experiments and to develop new and dangerous biological weapons. This is the starting point, a newspaper in Pakistan. From then onwards, it was reported furthermore by other news media, and then it started spreading globally. And actually, it was interesting because AIDS started in 1980s, and people were actually, the Americans, didn't know what to do about it. Only after 2 years they actually realized, and they said scientists had named the disease in 1982, so 2 years later, and then the following year a virus, HIV virus, was identified. However, the origins of HIV AIDS were still obscure, so the Americans didn't know what happened. And bam, in 1983, this newspaper appeared. So this is not quite deadly, you know, like it didn't affect a lot. It did affect a lot of people, but it wasn't like something disastrous. But then something else happened. There was an incident, basically in 1968. Somebody in East Germany published a book, and the book's name was Who's Who in the CIA. And basically what they did, they published a list of names of CIA intelligence officers. Half of the names were true, half of the names were false. What happened later, a poor guy, Daniel Mitrioni, who was working for the US agency, but he wasn't in the CIA. He was killed by a terrorist, who the terrorist said found his name in this document created by the Eastern Germany. So poor guy got killed because he had the same name as a guy he was listed in a fake document. Furthermore, 1979, there was a Muslim attack in Mecca. So immediately after, sensing an opportunity to weaken the American position in the Middle East, Soviet diplomats spread a rumor, just a rumor, saying that the America in Israel were behind these attacks. So basically, they didn't write anything. They didn't say, like, they didn't do anything in writing. They just said, hey, you know, like, I know for sure, it's the Americans, it's the Israelis. Pass on, it's okay. What happened later? An attack by a student union, a US embassy was attacked, an American was kidnapped, 2 Pakistani employees were died, and a Marine guard was shot, killed. Just coming from a rumor. That was it. A rumor, nothing else. So this kind of fake news can have deadly consequences. And then you have to ask yourself, how much does it cost to actually deploy this kind of measures? And again, in the same paper from CIA that now is publicly available, we can see that a conservative estimate puts the actual annual cost of Soviet active measures to $3 billion. $3 billion in 1980s is actually $9 billion in current money. So the Russians were spending $9 billion only for active measures, only for trying to do this kind of stuff in order to subvert their enemies. But they were not the only ones. The Americans were doing it the same, equally the same, I must say. So this is an example of a leaflet propaganda bomb. So if you don't know what this is, it looks like a bomb. It has the shape of a bomb, but it's not a bomb. It's basically a shell filled up with propaganda flyers. And basically you would put up the propaganda flyers, you would release the bomb from the plane, and then those flyers would spread all around the battlefield. And this is one of the methods that you would try to reduce the morale or increase the morale of your troops. And by the way, this is kind of the stuff that we know as white propaganda from back then. But then we have another example, Radio Free Europe. Who knows about Radio Free Europe? Perfect. I'm really sorry, I forgot all the goodies at home. I had goodies, but at home. I'll bring them next time. Radio Free Europe. Yeah. So basically, again, in a paper that now is publicly available, they said communist collaborators in the satellite countries, they were saying that the Radio Free Europe indicated some names, and they were like basically reading some names and broadcasting them. And the people who were denounced of Radio Free Europe, they were actually changing their names or attempted to conciliate the workers they terrorized. So people were ashamed when they heard their names on this radio. And also, in order to counter this Radio Free Europe, the Soviet bloc people, they were actually deployed more than 1,500 jammers, but it wasn't enough. Interesting enough, from a paper that from the actually the US consul from the West Germany back then, he said that it is regrettable that Europe herself did not take the initiative at the time. It is also regrettable that Radio Free Europe is still entirely financed by the USA, and that the Europeans have failed to show financial interest for Radio Free Europe. So basically they're saying, the Americans are saying nobody else is financing this stuff. But later they're saying, apart from the fact that the German government grants the license for this European broadcasting station, which operates in the German territory, there is no reason why Radio Free Europe should fall under German control. So in other words, yeah, you should give us some more money. We shouldn't be the only ones paying you the money, but you shouldn't have control over it. We should have full control over the broadcasting station. Okay, it's in your country, but we should have full control. So basically, if you want to read more about this Radio Free Europe and the way CIA used it to actually promote active measures on their own, there's a book. I highly recommend this book, and basically it covers everything. And by the way, Radio Free Europe is still available. You can listen to it, but you know, things changed. What about somewhere else? What about Romania? So in Romania, things were pretty bad in the 80s, and also people were trusting the scientists and science a lot, not like now. So whatever scientists were saying, it was actually common law, and people were actually believing what the scientists were saying. And who knows what this is? Cartela. Yeah, basically it's food ratios. So basically it's a food ratio, and basically you would stamp each day that you would get like your food ratio. And this is the food ratio that you would receive. Funnily enough, there was this information spread to the public in the media. Basically scientists saying that a healthy adult should eat no more than 1 kilogram of chicken per month. Oh, interesting. Conveniently, no? What was the ratio? 1 kilogram. Perfect, no? So basically they were saying for people to believe that, you know, it's okay to eat just 1 kilogram. That's fine. You can live healthy with that. Of course, you can live healthy. I'm not sure if you live happily, but that's it. Okay, so let's look at the present time. Things changed. Things changed, and I'm pretty sure that we are facing new methods. So basically Noah Tavlin, in his YouTube video, which I highly recommend to watch it, he says that our desire for quick answer may overpower the desire to be certain of their validity. We live in a world where things change constantly, like really fast. You want your answer immediately. You want to search for Google to see the weather, you want it now. You want to search for Google for a new food recipe, you choose the first link that appears. And basically he's saying that whenever we want to fact check something, humans nowadays, they just tend to choose the first thing that comes upon their search. So they don't want to further check the second or the third link or the second page of Google. You know, a good friend of mine said that if you want to hide something, you should put it on the second page of Google. Who checks the second page of Google? Thank you. He also mentioned the circular reporting, which some of you might know. Basically, it's the fact that a news publication publishes something, and then a second news publication, let's call it B, reports from A, and then C reports from B, and then D reports from C, and so on. This is not okay, in my opinion, but at least they're spreading information that is valid. Now, the problem is when news outlet number A starts spreading false information. This information will propagate throughout the other news outlets, and in the end, it will end up as something completely new. Nobody knows where it came from, but it's just there. And then basically, they say, you know, my source is news publication number X, so I'm okay. I just took that piece of information. Why people believe that this happens, it's for three reasons. First of all is tribalism, confirmation bias, and dangers of debunked ideas. Well, confirmation bias, you might know about it, is the fact that if a person has the same views as you have, statistically, you are more inclined to believe her rather than somebody else. Because in the past, you had the same views as that person, so you agreed with that person. So when this person comes and says something new, and the other person says, no, you're bullshitting, you actually tend to believe, statistically, you tend to believe the person that you are have a confirmation bias upon herself. Dangers of debunked ideas is another phenomenon that is very, very dangerous. And this happens when somebody launches a story it may be true, it may be false, it may be fake. And then this story stays for a long period of time, and then afterwards it is actually believed to be true. But people they do not, even though this story was actually debunked and debunked and debunked, people tend to believe stories that were stayed on for long enough. And this is the AIDS story. Sorry, this is the vaccine story. So there was one paper, 1997, that said vaccines cause autism. It was debunked and debunked and debunked, but at a later time, not right then. Even though the story was proven to be false, we can still see people today saying that, oh, but did you read this, this research paper? What the fuck? Then we have another problem. In the latest Eurobarometer survey, which the European Union is doing it every year, basically they're saying that more than ever, European citizens see their country's membership to the EU as a good thing. Very good. So all EU countries, most of the people see it as a good thing. But then they asked, okay, do you consider that your country's membership to the EU is a bad thing? Who do you think was the first in the rankings? I'm sorry, I don't think you can see the numbers, but it's quite good. So anybody can guess? UK. Perfect. 22% of people in UK said it's a bad thing that they're in the EU. Second country, Romania. 21%. 21% of Romanian people that were interviewed in this, yeah, maybe, they say, people from a specific geographic location, they say that it's a bad thing that they're in the European Union. And after the referendum, which I think you all know about the referendum, I've seen messages of raw exit. I've seen a lot of raw exit messages, and this is like quite worrisome, you know, like what the heck? In the same survey, they said the European average, the abuse of personal data, and as well as fake news and disinformation are lowest ranked threats. So from all European countries, fake news is lowest ranked threat, apart from Latvia, Sweden, and Romania. In Romania, the threat of fake news is 24%. Threat of fake news and disinformation online find its highest relative support. So in Romania, the highest threat is fake news. This is what they're saying. Now, a study conducted by a well-known organization sponsored by the Soros Foundation. You know, it might be true, it might be false. They're saying something interesting, that the Balkans are most susceptible for fake news. Thank you very much. And basically they're saying that the media literacy rankings, and they rank the countries. Finland, which by the way, this year they're celebrating 100 years of existence, and they created a huge mega library. So a huge mega library. What do we have? Finland is highest. Macedonia is lowest, and Romania is like on the 90th percentile here. So the problem is that if you don't have, if you have an illiterate population, then people tend to believe more easily fake news. This is not new for you, of course, but it has correlations. We're gonna discuss a bit later about this one. Now, fact-checking report. Those guys from the MIT, they said that they conducted more than 300 surveys and 90 interviews to gather various perspectives on fact-checking policies. Basically, they went to various publications and they said, do you fact-check your news? Do you check what you're saying? Do you make sure that what you're publishing is not fake? And basically they said that the study focused on not on the watchdog efforts, but rather on the in-house quality control that publications do before a story goes to print. So basically, if they check the news or not. And basically they saw that more than 34% they use fact checkers. Only 1/3 use fact checkers, actually fact checkers. Others, they use like a variety of others, like from authors, editors, combination, and everything. Furthermore, fact checkers, on average, they get $19 per hour, up to $30 per hour, for something that I think it's an immensely important job. How many minutes do I have left? Good, thank you. So this is very important for a job that it's your main task is to not spread fake news. They get paid really low. And this is one of the problems with media. The other problems, yeah, question. Perfect. Fake fact-checking websites. Yeah. So add this one to the mix, and we see that the future is not looking so bright. But you know, this is where we are. Add the bots to the mix, and then of course you might have heard about the this summer's scandal about the Russian trolls. And who knows about the agency? Who heard about the agency? Basically, it's a St. Petersburg building where you can read it on Motherboard, you can read it on Vice, on New York Times. Basically, it's a building where people are paid to be internet trolls. And this lady here, Kate Startbird, I'm really sorry if the text is not good. She basically analyzed a lot of their tweets before Twitter released all their metadata, which is perfect. Now she's doing an amazing research because she has the content. She can see where this data came from. Before that, she made a research from Twitter publicly available data. And basically in this data, she said that she correlated two focus groups. Those groups were arguing, it doesn't matter what they were arguing against. And in those two groups, she found out people in gray that were tweeting with a specific pattern. Sometimes they forgot to remove their metadata and they said, America Great Again supporter, location St. Petersburg. Location Vladivostok. What the fuck? Seriously? So this kind of data and other kind of metadata, and basically she said that, you know, from my research, there are guys sitting at the same computer controlling 2 or more accounts arguing with each other. Basically there's one guy arguing with himself all the time. But then this is useful because due to confirmation bias and tribalism, people from in this sphere, they are more likely to agree with what people in the orange part say. People in this sphere who are against the people on the left are more likely to argue with the people in the gray area in their sphere. And basically they live in two bubbles, and basically you, the person in the gray, you control both sides, and you can manipulate both sides just by arguing with it yourself. That's crazy, no? So basically, in her words, there are paid trolls sitting side by side somewhere in St. Petersburg, hate quoting each other account. That's it. We have another account, another example of pro-Brexit Twitter account with 120,000 followers that was proven to be part of their Russian disinformation campaign. Now it's blocked. 100,000 Twitter followers. Anybody has 1,000 Twitter followers? I don't have. So, you know, it's pretty big. It's pretty big. Now, who knows this guy? Who personally knows this guy? Well, you know, there are some people who actually talked with him. So, in the beginning, there was Decipher, with his real name, Marcel. This Marcel guy, he was a taxi driver. In his free time, was a Romanian hacker. He himself said, in the style of Gucci and light of Lucifer. Nice. He basically had no skills. He was doing, he was brute forcing passwords, and he was good at social engineering, and he knew how to correlate public information, and he hacked some of the pretty interesting people. Colin Powell, Corina Crețu, George Mayer. This is publicly well known. And he also called the guy who was in charge of Romanian intelligence services, and he asked him money to not spit out his data, and of course he got in jail after that. So what the fuck. But then, let me introduce you Guccifer 2.0. Who knows Guccifer 2.0? Who personally knows Guccifer 2.0? Huh? Okay. It might be here, you know, you never know. So, Motherboard spoke to Guccifer 2.0. Allegedly, Romanian hacker. Romanian hacker. That's what he said. He doesn't like Russians, and I hate attributed being to Russia. Sure. And they talk to him, and then basically, of course, like, what do you do? Like, so you're Romanian, of course. Let's start a conversation in Romanian. No, I mean, what the hell? And this guy, Lorenzo, he started asking him in Romanian some questions. And where are you from? Romania. And then he said, aș vrea să vorbesc în română. I want to speak to you in Romanian. Would you like to speak in Romanian? And then he says, vorbiți limbă română? Okay. And then Lorenzo says, why did you put Russian metadata in the first batch of documents? And he says, este filigranul meu. Puteți găsi alte filigrane. Oare nu știți ce este filigran? And then he does a lot of other mistakes, like this one, or v-am spus deja, încercați să-mi verifica, which basically it's like he makes grammatical error in Romanian. Am mult de făcut, again grammatical error. But then I got interested and I said, like, what the fuck, filigran? Anybody heard about filigran? Well, Google heard about filigram. If you search, it's my watermark. No, yeah, but if you search on Google, it's my watermark, which makes sense in English. You get this one. Check it out. Check it out on Google Translate. So, okay. Yeah, sure. I don't know, but would you say it as a Romanian? It's my. And then Guccifer 2 said he's Romanian. Yeah. Clearly, and I'm not saying it's true or not, but then others are saying that he was actually a Russian guy. It might be false flags. It might not be false flags. You know. Yeah. It fits. Sure. Guccifer might be like a Moldavian hacker. What about this guy? So you might have heard about this guy, and basically his Facebook page was closed, and he was anti-government, anti-system, blah 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 blah, and his Facebook page was blocked for some hours, and it made me think, you know, like, if I asked somebody, if I go and ask you, would you like to block a Facebook page? So first of all, do you have Facebook? You might say yes or no, and then if I were to give you money to block a just go on that specific Facebook page and just click report page. That's it. Just report a page. Would you do it? Would anybody do it? Thank you. Thank you. What about if I give you some money? Would you do it for €1? No. Come on. So I come to you on the street. Yeah, I see you on the street. Like you're walking on the street, minding your own business, you know, like la 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 la. Hey, civic citizen, would you like to report a Facebook page for €2? 4? Huh? Come on, €10? I can't really say like, I'm giving you 10 euros right now. Just go on your phone, report a page, and that's it. There are no consequences. 20 euros? 20 euros and 50 cents. Anybody would report a page for 20 euros? Nobody? Really, nobody? Come on. Thank you. Thank you. Now, exactly, write a bot, you know, to blow. But it needs to be real accounts. It needs to be real accounts. It can't be like bot accounts. Now, multiply this one with 1,000 persons, and you can block whatever page you want. You can silence the free speech of like most people. Yeah, you have like this activist person, you have like this journalist person, and they're publishing stuff on their personal Facebook page, and then you get 1,000 people, they report him, and then what would Facebook do? Block him for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, it doesn't matter. You silence his speech. And how much does it cost? 2,000 euros? And the budget is $9 billion dollars? It's nothing. So this is one of the problems. The second problem is internet balkanization, and if you don't know what internet balkanization means, is that each country, they tried to create their own internet. So we have examples with Russia, like Vkontakte instead of Facebook, Yandex instead of Google, and other things like this. But we also have examples in China, we have examples in Iran, and some of the countries, they try to create their own internet. Of course, in order to control it, because it's easier if you created the application rather than somebody else, a US government, like, or the servers are in US, it's harder to block. And, you know, remember what happened in Turkey, no? They banned Wikipedia entirely because there was this article against this, against Turkish government. So, this happens in Iran. They basically blocked Telegram, and this happens in most of the countries that the freedom press is low. So most of the countries that the freedom press index is pretty low, they tried to balkanize their internet, and this is one of the problems. And my personal hope or task is that I would not want to see either Romania or any other countries in Europe turn black. And I hope that you might actually help with this task, and we're gonna achieve something so we don't go into there. Turkey is kind of turning black a bit, and you know, Bulgaria here, and Hungary. Unfortunately, Hungary is also like not so good. Now, also, in those countries that are black, we have a problem of privacy. So if you try to define privacy, those are some of the definitions. My personal favorite definition is freedom to be left alone. The state of being free from unwanted or undue intrusion or disturbance in one's private life or affairs. And you might have the illusion of privacy. Now, that's a problem because people try to say, they say, oh, you know, I'm private enough, doesn't matter, or 5 minutes, or I'm private enough, I don't have anything to hide, or nothing to hide argument. And this like, if it's something that you would like to take away when you leave after I finish, is this one. The nothing to hide argument is fucking bullshit. And people say that, you know, I have nothing to hide. I'm happy to give out all my secrets away, put my life, my private life online, everything is fine. Sure, it's nothing bad if you do that. You have the right to do it, like it's your life, for fuck's sake. But then, there are other companies who are happy to collect all the data that you're giving out for fucking free. And then you're giving out the data, and you say like, oh, you know, like this, I've been there, I've been that. I support this political party. I support these guys. I believe in free speech. I believe in Black Lives Matter. Things like that. Yeah. So every one of you have something that you believe in, and that's fine. Companies, they try to go there, and if you put it online without restrictions, companies will come and they will claim that one. and what happens after, Cambridge Analytica happens. And then two events that I never thought would happen, happened. Not directly because of this one, but this was also a contribution. I'm pretty sure about this one. It's not entirely Cambridge Analytica's fault. But then you might say, oh, you know, Cambridge Analytica is dead, although they renamed their company. What about this one? Anybody knows about this one? Advanced Symbolics? Nice. Do you work for them? Okay. I would like to ask you some question. So, they say, as a market research leader, we use our patented AI technology, Poly. They have a face for the AI, like weird face, to proudly disrupt the industry and set new standards in behavioral research. Behavioral research. You know what this means. Basically, they correctly predicted the outcome of the Senate vote that happened in America like some weeks ago. And they correctly said that how many seats the Democrats and how many seats the Republicans are gonna take. And this was a bot. This was an AI. So, is privacy dead? Is something that is anything that we can protect ourselves? Yes, I think so. So the fact that you are here, the fact that you are trying to learn more stuff, that's first thing. We have tools that we can protect ourselves, like VPNs, very important. We have ways to, like different operating systems, some of them that they do not collect a lot of data, some of them collect. So you have some options, you can do something. But first of all, user education. We can protect against fake news, manipulation, disinformation by educating people, and then by having quality journalism, and then by having user education. But also, quality journalism is very important. And Lithuania, for example, they started creating an AI that is able to identify fake news in 2 minutes. And of course, they are good at identifying fake news in Russian. But they also said that this AI is capable of identifying texts in other languages. So this is a start. In Romania, we don't have this AI, but we have these guys. And I think it's very important, if you don't know them, go check out their web pages, go check out their Facebook, and see what they're doing it. And this is the causes I believe in. And if you have some money to spare, donate to those guys because they're doing really good work, and I think it's very important to actually have some quality journalism, because in Hungary, for example, they just relocated themselves. All the propaganda companies, they created this huge mammoth company, and it's gonna be like state controlled, and journalism, I'm afraid, is kind of like dying in Hungary. So quality journalism is pretty good. Don't forget about the information war and the fact that this is only one component, and you need to protect yourself or the companies against the other two components. And this is a different discussion, like AV companies, blah, 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 threat intel. I'm not going to discuss about this one here. There was a question. There was a Reddit Ask Me Anything with the CERT, Romanian CERT team. And somebody said, what are we going to do if Russia or somebody else, they're going to start creating an influential network? Do we have a chance to discover this network, trying to influence our elections, or not? And basically, the CERT guys, they said, whatever you said above, it's not in our capabilities or our duties. We don't have to do anything about it. It's not our job. It's not my job to do it. Fuck it, I'm out. Then whose job is it? Is it the government's job? Is it the public sector job? Is it the private sector job? Is it like independent journalism? I think it's everybody's job, and also your job as well. So, with this being said, I would like to say that on this day, some many years ago, the prohibition ended in America. So let's all cheer for that and cheer for 2 years of Security Espresso. Thank you very much.
Thank you a lot, Dan. If anyone has a questions, here's the mic.
And if you have anything to disagree on with Dan, he's on the Telegram channel as well, just so you know.
Yeah. But we can also debate here, like.
Not exactly a question, but trying to stress out something. You've talked about mass opinion manipulation, which is kind of awesome. No, rarely someone talks about that, and I enjoy that very, very much.
Thank you.
And it all relates to the old computing problem of PEBCAC, and that's practically the problem sits between chair and keyboard if someone doesn't know the acronym. And the mass opinion manipulation is practically mass social engineering. At least I see it like that. And to add something to your presentation, you talked about literacy. Yes, it's a valid point, but it's not the only problem, because we have highly educated people that do not have the critical thinking in order to discern fake news from real news. And we're talking about people with college degrees. So critical thinking is a step above, and we have that problem because educated people do not have the critical thinking in order to discern the reality. And that might be a subject and a few other slides to add in your presentation. That's
Thank you very much for this addition. Yeah, indeed. I think this is like a layered approach. You have like uneducated people who believe really easily, like some of the news stuff. Then you have like educated people, like they might believe something else, and you might have to use other measures to help them identify stuff. And it's a problem. It's a problem. Question, yes.
So I have this friend who ran a business out of in this disinformation business. It's a very good business.
Yeah. I'd like to meet your friend.
Sure. And I can tell you it has very much to do with marketing.
Yeah.
Do you know that? Can you sense the connection between this and marketing?
Well, I would say the first thing is that if in the past disinformation was very hard to target specific people, nowadays it's very easily to target person X, Y, and Z with a different message.
So, to the point of the previous person who said that it's about critical thinking, I can tell you for a fact that nobody can be immune to fake news dissemination.
Clearly.
It doesn't matter how illiterate and how educated you are. You cannot be immune to fake news. The only thing that matters when it comes to fake news dissemination, the most important thing is volume, by far. You do not influence the persons that participate in a conversation. However, people will react to the vast majority that tries to impose an opinion. If 80% of the participants in a conversation have an opinion, people reading that thread will be influenced by those 80% that have an opinion.
That's basically tribalism.
Yeah. And also, Goebbels said that, if you say a lie 1,000 times or a sufficient amount of times,
it becomes true.
It becomes true.
It becomes true. Yeah, clearly. Or if you don't debunk something at an early stage, it's game over.
And I'm afraid there's no such thing as fact-checking these days.
Well, honestly, I believe that there are some things that I do believe that they are false. The question is, what's the amount of facts that you believe that might be false? If it's super high, then you have a problem. You try to read from a lot of sources to see if what you think is actually true. But yeah, you're right. I don't think there is one person who might be immune to this stuff. Welcome to our world, I guess. So are there any other questions?
Thank you.
Hello?
I'll move here. So I want to play devil's advocate for a bit about your internet balkanization.
Balkanization.
Okay. VKontakte actually is founded by the same guy who founded Telegram.
Yeah.
And he is against the Russian government. He has his political views are against. So
clearly, yeah.
Yeah. So they doing that service is not like a Russian government service, and the same is with the search engines, because the reason there is a different search engine in China and Russia isn't because the government want to do it. It's because there is no other search engine there. Google failed. Google retired from China in 2010, and now they're
Coming back.
yeah, there's a whole mess about that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point out that that is not like a full argument. Yes, there is a Balkanization, but that's like not a government push to do
Yeah,
it.
but you know what I think, okay, so Google backed out and now it's coming back, but if you read the terms, it's coming back. Google is
those
gonna
are bad
be
terms.
those are bad terms. Basically what Google does, they're saying, okay, we want some market share, we want to earn some money, we're gonna come here, we obey by your rules, you control the content we're giving out to the people. Basically this is not different than their search engine. And this means that actually Balkanization and the search engines that are allowed and published and promoted by the governments are actually more controlled and more manipulative than other players who got kicked out just because they were not playing ball.
Yeah. Well, they left by their own will, but because of those conditions.
Sure,
yes,
but you know, like just the fact that they left and they're coming back and we're coming back with those terms, I think this means that there's like a huge balkanization
Well,
in China.
Yeah, for China, that was
And
definitely
I'm not
the whole.
there might be on other countries as well.
Okay, thank you.
Google is going for the ads, yeah. So yeah, no. Yeah, they want the money. They want the money, but they, of course, they might. They also will. They will also have the search. The search. They need a search to display ads.
No. Okay,
Hello?
so you're talking about Facebook and Twitter and the social networks. Do you think that the creators of Facebook knew what was going to happen? Did they have any idea that the manipulation would go outside of marketing and?
Well, I think not. I think they just created a service. Well, there are a lot of theories that Facebook is backed by some state agencies, blah, 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 blah. No, I think they just created a service like it happened before in the US. They didn't know what's happening, but now the service got overturned or like got abused. And this is directly connected to the fact that active measures existed even before internet, but it was harder for governments to do it. Now it's easier for people to actually, for agencies or whoever wants to do fake news, it's easier to target people. So I think we're gonna wrap up now. I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Dan, very much.
Thank you.